People who work in luxury industries, five-star hotels, fine dining, high-end brands, what is a complete ripoff that rich people happily pay for? I once DJ'd in a casino in Macau. The VIP tables would competitively send bottles of champagne to each other's tables just to signal their wealth. It would be announced over the PA system, but nobody would get the champagne. The bottles never actually existed. It would be like, Table 10 sends 5 bottles of champagne to Table 4. Table 4 is sending 15 bottles of champagne to Table 10. Table 10 is sending 30 bottles of champagne to Table 4, etc., etc. This kept on going until they were up to like 200 bottles of champagne. They weren't friends or anything, they were just showing their wealth off to this other table. They got a few symbolic bottles with indoor fireworks taken to the table by girls, but that's it. I asked the owner what it was about, and he said they can pick them up on another day if they want, but nobody ever does. It's purely for show. Insane.
If someone were to show up the next day with a delivery truck to claim the champagne, would there be any double-checking about who's claiming it?
Asking the important questions. I'll rent the U-Haul, and you drive.
One of the more interesting ones is having expensive replicas made of priceless jewelry in case of theft. My surrogate dad in Nassau County, Long Island, knows of people who spent thousands and thousands of dollars on costume dupes of their best jewelry, so they can wear that out and leave the real stuff at home under lock and key. Imagine a set of costume jewelry worth more than your vehicle. That sort of thing.
About 20 years ago, I worked at a store that sold the fabulous fakes. The women would spend a few $1,000s on new vacation jewels so they didn't have to worry about losing their real diamonds if they got robbed.
Caskets and urns. I work in a fancier funeral home as support staff, not a director. We literally sell $80 urns imported from India for $600 plus. A $2,000 casket goes for $8,000. Remember that you are allowed under federal law to bring your own urn or casket. Sometimes I feel like there is more financial flexing at funerals than at weddings.
If you make your product rare, we are very small olive oil producers. We have all the machines to completely produce the oils ourselves. We work very clean and organic in a way that goes beyond any certificates, so we won't fool anyone on this side. But there is certain special oils. In other words, the very early harvest, or oil from wild olive trees. We have some wealthy customers. If we tell them we only have 10 liters of wild olive oil left, they want to buy it all, only to know that they have it and no one else. So we found ourselves lying sometimes about the amount of oil left. It makes certain rich people buy everything available just to have it. Exclusivity is a drug to the ultra-wealthy. My wife's friend is worth a couple billion, and he loves buying weird things where he has the only one in existence, just because. I'm weird, and there is only one of me. Let him know. I work for a high-end plumbing company. We do some truly enormous new residential builds. The difference between regular and high-end plumbing is purely aesthetic. All our pipes are meticulously organized and ran with non-flexible materials. We essentially do satisfying cable management, but for pipes. It looks nice, and wealthy customers like nice-looking things.
My billionaire real estate client was having me go back and forth with the selling realtor on a property over a $10K difference in what he wanted to pay on a multi-million-dollar vacant lot. He made a point of telling me he and his wife were sipping a $10K bottle of port while having me dick around over $10K on the property. Also, the most unhappy client I've ever had. Rich and unhappy ain't no way to live.
Honestly, the markup on wine at fine dining restaurants is insane. I worked as a hostess and watched people drop $300 on bottles we got wholesale for like $40 without even blinking. Really no different with beer. Bottles $5 plus, drafts $7 plus. Restaurant purchase price is probably not much more than $1. I used to run a bar.
To get the employees to stop drinking a million different products without paying, making my inventory tracking a nightmare, I offered up unlimited free PBR, a staff bottle of OK whiskey, and a staff bottle of any other OK liquor, with the stipulation the liquor isn't necessarily unlimited. Staff would have access to those drinks for free, everything else at a discount. Not paying for other drinks was a terminable offense. Everyone was flabbergasted. I'll be losing money hand over fist. Why didn't they care when they were stealing product? I assured them it was fine. We could run it as an experiment. It's hard to drink enough PBR to make a bar lose money. A keg at the time was like $70, so about 50 cents a beer. A PBR was $3 on the menu, so quite a profitable markup, if the bartender stopped breaking so many glasses.
Work in fine dining as a cook. Sure, the $80 steaks are a thing, and so's a $20 creme brulee, but probably the thing that's the biggest ripoff that sells like gangbusters is the up to $180 charcuterie board. Yes, it looks pretty and has very expensive meat and cheese on it, but it's mostly filled out with nuts, pickled veg, and crostini, and a few dips. And all, on that board, there's maybe $15 or $20 worth of product, and it takes me 5 to 7 minutes to assemble each, after the meats are sliced, but that's all done in prep in the afternoon. The margins on that are better than even most alcohol, save perhaps nice wine. People love their shart and just pay out the nose for it. 4 sharts coming right up.
Less common, but the most vile scam I've seen. I worked for a restaurant that wanted to be on a higher income shelf, in the middle of a white men in finance and Gilet district, very popular business breakfast spot. They had a huge oven near the expo, and you could see freshly baking sourdough bread. The oven was not actually baking. It was set on something like 40°C, so the bread was kept nicely warm, but definitely not freshly baked. We didn't even bake it on site. It was delivered in the morning and put in the oven as a display. If someone ordered bread and olives or charcuterie board from the menu, we would make a whole event of getting that bread out, slicing, arranging, and serving. You would then expect any other order that had bread in there to get this bread. Yeah, no. Any order, like things containing toast, full English, avo toasts, etc., had generic Warburtons used. FO8 staff had to deal with complaints about it left, right, and center. I lasted 3 weeks, the restaurant about a year more after I left.
Hotels. The difference between a $75 room and a $150 to $200 room is usually massive. The difference between a $200 room and an $800 plus room is a lot of small things that most people like but wouldn't spend $600 plus on.
That extra $600 is mainly to ensure that you only stay with other guests who are willing to pay $600 extra to avoid people who stay at $200 hotels.